God left them to the consequences of their actions. And at this moment in time, they were put into the hands of the Midianites. And the Midianites oppressed the Israelites. And that's the context. That's the background. 7 years the people were being oppressed by the Midianites. Eventually, they got it and they said, hang on a minute, we know what to do now. We'll ask God. But it took them 7 years. They were a bit slow on the uptake, really, weren't they? That's none of us, is it?
No, definitely not.
I can honestly say that was my story coming to full-time ministry. It took time for God to really batter down the hatches that I put up. So, verse 7 says, when the Israelites cried out to the Lord because of Midian, he sent them a prophet. He sent them a prophet. And the prophet told them, you need to come back to God. You need to come back to God. You see, it was in the middle of their suffering that God actually managed to get through to them. C.S. Lewis put it this way: God whispers to us in our pleasures, speaks in our conscience, but shouts in our pains. It's his megaphone to rouse a deaf world. If you're struggling, maybe God is trying to get through. Maybe God is speaking to you, just as he spoke to the people of Israel. So he sent them a prophet and he sent them a warrior. A prophet and a warrior. Gideon was the warrior. He just didn't look like one. And he just didn't know it. He really was the most unlikely choice. But God chose Gideon. I discovered for the first time what the name Gideon means. Gideon means tree cutter. In other words, Gideon's name was Lumberjack. But God chose him. God chose him. You might be another lumberjack, because God might choose you. Okay, let's go into the text that Amanda read for us for a moment or two. Verse 11 says, the angel of the Lord came and sat down under the oak in Ophrah that belonged to Joash the Abizrite, where his son Gideon was threshing wheat in a winepress to keep it from the Midianites. God called Gideon even though he was fully occupied. God called Gideon while he was working hard, while he was providing for his family. There he was, threshing wheat and doing it in the most difficult of circumstances. God got through to him in the middle of his working day. God got through to him when he was busy. Now that got me thinking, you know, I'm busy, you're busy, we all say we're busy. Have you ever said that? And has somebody come along to you and said, could you possibly do something else?
Yeah.
And what was your answer? Was it, I haven't got time, I'm too busy? Because you were working at threshing wheat on the floor of the wine press? That could have been Gideon's response. You see, God doesn't necessarily choose people who've got lots of spare time. God doesn't necessarily choose people who are idling away, putting their feet up. So saying I'm too busy does not mean that it's a let-out clause when God asks us to do something for Him, something different or something more. Remember, Gideon was busy when God called him. Verse 12. When the angel of the Lord appeared to Gideon, he said, "The Lord is with you, mighty warrior." The Lord is with you, mighty warrior. God sees the best in everyone. And Gideon did not look the part of a mighty warrior. He was fearful. How do we know that? He was threshing wheat in a wine press. Does that not strike you as being a little odd? What normally happens in a wine press? You press wine. Yes. Well, you press grapes to make wine. You don't normally thresh wheat in a wine press. Normally you would thresh wheat out in the open so that the wind, the breeze could come and take the chaff and blow it away. But Gideon was threshing in a wine press. Why? Because the Midianites have been that way before and they've taken the wheat. And Gideon doesn't want that to happen again. So he hides away in a wine press. A wine press you would have found dug into the ground. He's going underground, is our Gideon. He's afraid that the Midianites will come. He's full of frustration. He's discouraged. And verse 15 tells us, and I love the way that he starts off. He says, "Pardon me, my Lord. Pardon me, my Lord. But how can I save Israel? My clan is the weakest in Manasseh, and I am the least in my family." Gideon is someone who has a fairly low opinion of himself. Low self-esteem. He doesn't think he's anybody. He says, "Who me? Who me?" But God sees something more in him. And God chooses this weak, fearful character to be the warrior to overcome the Midianites. And God looks at each one of us and He sees us as we are, but He sees the potential within us. He sees that we can be a warrior. And when He calls us, He doesn't make a mistake. And we can say like Gideon, "Who me?" But God knows exactly what He's doing. Verse 16. The Lord answered, "I will be with you, and you will strike down all the Midianites, leaving none alive." God promised Gideon that He would be with him. God promised His presence. God spoke peace into Gideon's troubled and doubting mind. And Gideon recognised that God was with him. Back in the Napoleonic times, Napoleon's men said, when Napoleon takes our hands and looks at us, we feel like conquerors. When Napoleon himself was there, they could do and achieve anything. We have the promise of God holding our hands and being with us, just as he promised Gideon that he would be with him. We have the promise of the Holy Spirit. And when we recognise that, when we open our lives to his Spirit, we can, like Paul, who was writing to the Christians in Rome, we can say, then we are more than conquerors. Gideon and God were a winning combination. God and you also make a winning team. Verse 25 and 26. We didn't have this read, but I wanted to add this in. That same night the Lord said to him, take the second bull from your father's herd, the one 7 years old, tear down your father's altar to Baal, and cut down the Asherah pole beside it. Then build a proper kind of altar to the Lord your God on the top of the height. And using the wood of the Asherah pole that you cut down, offer the second bull as a burnt offering. The people of Israel had not only just turned their back on God, they'd actually decided that they wanted to serve the gods of the Canaanites, Baal, Asherah, fertility gods. And so Gideon's family had an altar to Baal and a pole with a statue of Asherah on it, the goddess. And so God's first task for Gideon was one that was close to home. He said, clean up your home. His family, along with the rest of the Israelite nation, had compromised their faith. And so God tells Gideon, break down the family altar, cut down the Asherah pole, and build an altar to the Lord your God instead. God's mission for Gideon started with his own family. And God's mission was to enable Gideon to become that great, successful leader of God's people, that warrior to defeat the Midianites. But God knew that if spiritually Gideon was compromised, that could not happen. And so God said, clean up your act. And God says to us, if you're going to be a servant of mine, if you're going to be a minister for me, put your house in order. Put your house in order. Get right spiritually with God. Do some real business with him. Get rid of the stuff that shouldn't be there in your life. Verse 17, finally. Gideon replied, if now I have found favour in your eyes, give me a sign that it is really you talking to me. Gideon wanted a sign. Gideon wanted a sign. And God gave him a sign. Because when Gideon brought an offering. The Lord struck it and it was burnt. God is okay with us checking out that it really is His call. God is okay with us looking for a sign. He will give us a sign if we ask for a sign. So, how do we finish all of this? You know, God will ask us even if we're busy. God sees the potential in us. God promises His presence with us in whatever we're doing, the ordinary, the everyday things. God wants us to focus on the cross and not have, in a sense, some spiritual double vision. He wants us to get right with Him, and God will make things clear. He will give us a sign. God wants willing servants like Gideon, with all of their fears, with all of their weaknesses. God's power can work in us. John, He wants ordinary people to carry out His extraordinary plan. That means ordinary people like you and me. John Wesley, writing over 200 years ago, said, "Give me 100 men who fear nothing but sin and desire nothing but God. And I care not whether they be clergymen or laymen. They alone will shake the gates of hell and set up the kingdom of heaven upon the earth." If we're sold out, if we're committed to God, then we can do great things as builders of God's kingdom. Is God trying to wake you up this morning? Is He trying to say, I want you to do something for me? Do business with God. Think about the needs in the church. We need more helpers with Paternato, more volunteers in the White Horse Project. We need people to become part of the children's team. We've got a vision for trying to be a men-friendly church. We want better to serve young adults. Is God calling you to any of these areas? Let's just be still and quiet for a moment. Lord, speak into my heart. Lead me where you want me to go, what you want me to do, to be a kingdom builder for you.